Moving now to the topic of abortion nationally. Recently, Democrats in Illinois voted to repeal the state's last anti-abortion law, which had required that parents or guardians be notified when girls younger than 18 were seeking an abortion. The measure now heads to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's desk for final approval. One Democrat says the bill, if approved, will make Illinois a, quote, 100% pro-choice state.
And now the Supreme Court showdown over Texas's controversial anti-abortion law. Hours after oral arguments happened, the majority of the justices appearing willing to allow the challenges to the abortion law there in the Lone Star State.
Let's welcome in our panelists now for reaction. We're happy to have former Colorado governor candidate Barry Farah, distinguished university professor at Touro College and author of the book Saving Free Speech from Itself, Thane Rosenbaum, and host of This Is America podcast, Rich Valdez. Panelists, welcome. Thank you for coming on today, this election day here. We're talking about abortion, which is often a topic when you think about elections, where candidates stand on the issue. But this is different because we're talking about the Supreme Court, specifically that Texas case. The Supreme Court hearing oral arguments yesterday for about 3 hours over Texas's abortion law. Here's what the Biden administration's new Solicitor General, Elizabeth Prelogar, told the justices. Take a listen.
Texas designed SB 8 to thwart the supremacy of federal law and open defiance of our constitutional structure. States are free to ask this court to reconsider its constitutional precedents, but they are not free to place themselves above this court, nullify the court's decisions in their borders, and block the judicial review necessary to vindicate federal rights.
All right, Thane, I want to go to you. Your thoughts on this case, what you just heard, and where it could be headed.
Well, the interesting thing, Emma, is that, remember, Donald Trump appointed 3 justices, and Donald Trump said that they would overturn Roe v. Wade. So that's why this case is such a bellwether, because this Texas law completely ignores and nullifies Roe v. Wade. What was interesting about yesterday was that it did seem as if Justices Barrett and Kavanaugh were sympathetic to what you just read, which is that this was a loophole that Texas found as a way to avoid judicial review in federal court by simply saying this is not the state enforcement mechanism. This is just individuals suing abortion providers or Uber drivers for assisting someone in getting an abortion. The state is not really involved in this at all. And so I think that what you're seeing here in some ways politically is at least 2 justices that will switch their votes from this summer, in which they didn't want to take the case on an emergency petition, and say, you know, at least let the providers have a day in court, in federal court. That doesn't mean that the law will be preserved, but at least give them a chance to exercise their constitutional rights.
All right, Rich Valdez, your thoughts.
Sure. Well, contrary to what the professor was saying, I don't think there was any of the justices that were appointed during their Senate hearings that said that they would overturn any Roe v. Wade. Most of them said it's established law and they would look at things as they came. But that being said, this is really tricky water. Texas is definitely leading the charge in the pro-life movement, trying to do what's right on states' rights and enforcing and upholding federalism. And the Solicitor General seems to be doing Biden's bidding, at least from my political perspective. It seems like it's going to be a long and fought-out fight, and they're going to use every last bit of the political power that the administration has to try and maintain anything they can do to make sure that abortion's available on demand all the time.
Thane touched on this a little bit. He mentioned Kavanaugh, some concerns that he brought up yesterday in regards to the Texas law, whether it might set a precedent for other bans, free speech, gun rights, other amendment rights as well. The Associate Justice Elena Kagan also weighing in on what could happen if any state enacts a potentially unconstitutional law. She said this, I'll read it to you guys. Essentially, we would be inviting states of all of 50 of them with respect to their unpreferred constitutional rights to try to nullify the law that this court has laid down. There's nothing the Supreme Court can do about it. Guns, same-sex marriage, religious rights, whatever you don't like, go ahead. So, Barry, you can weigh in on that and whether or not you think maybe this is the case that could do with getting rid of Roe v. Wade, or perhaps even another case that we're going to hear about a month from now, that Mississippi case.
Of course, you've got the Mississippi case also coming up, so that could be a whole different argument. I think the argument here that it appears the justices are making is that it's too retroactive, has the capability to go back in time and sue people for millions of dollars of damages for something that at the time was established law. So on a pure jurisprudence standpoint, some of those conservatives that might be personally pro-life are hesitant on the Texas law. But it is interesting if you compare the Texas law to the Illinois law that's just about to be signed by Pritzker, and they really are two opposite ends of the spectrum. They're taking away all parental rights to even be notified if your 13-year-old is pregnant in an unwanted situation, basically saying we're going to take you away from being able to even go to the people you're closest to think through the situation.
Yeah. Again, it's a state-by-state situation here. We're trying our best to follow along with all the latest developments. Our panelists, Barry Farah, Thane Rosenbaum, Rich Valdez, please stay with us. Another topic to get to.